What's up guys, Blitz here today bringing you another video. Finally guys, it's been announced, revealed, and given a release date. Final Fantasy VII Remake Definitive Edition has been revealed as Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. If you guys haven't seen my reaction to the 3 trailers, be sure to go on ahead and check that video out. In this video, we are covering a Famitsu news article translated by Audrey on Twitter. It's all from Nomura and his process behind these 3 titles. There are some really good information in this, so without further ado, let's get into this video. The interviewer asked Nomura, the lighting, textures, and environment in the PlayStation 5 game Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade looks so real. Is there any other area that sees improvement? Nomura says, in regards to the graphics, the lighting and textures have been adjusted, but we've also added fog elements to the environment, giving you an even more immersive experience as you enter the world. We also have a mode that allows for 4K and runs on 60 frames per second. Immediately, I was hyped about this statement simply because those were all big complaints from the wide majority of fans of Remake. I personally was bothered by the skyboxes looking like PlayStation 1 JPEGs, but it didn't really ruin my experience. The fact that in the trailer they specifically go ahead to showcase that to us is pretty awesome. However, keep in mind, they did not show us them doors or the flowers in Aerith's garden, so we still have to confirm this. Either way, I'm still blown away by how amazing it all looked from a YouTube stream crunching the bitrate. The full raw quality will definitely shine brighter when it's on your own screen. How about the haptic DualSense controls as well as the 3D audio from the PlayStation 5? Nomura says, we have a few things that incorporates the adaptive triggers. However, in regards to fully utilizing the PlayStation 5's various features, we hope you could please wait until the next installment to fully experience it. To me, this sounds like they implemented what they could with a shorter development time. It's not going to be anything impressive involving the haptics and triggers as far as the integrated version goes. But basically, they said they will fully look into utilizing those features for Remake Part 2. The photo mode seems to allow you to change the camera angle while in game. Will you be able to change the character poses like in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind? Are there certain criteria that must be met before you can use photo mode? Nomura says, no, the concept is different from Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. You will not be able to pose the characters. It's more like just taking a snapshot for memory in a scene. You can use photo mode immediately. And right from the jump, photo mode is accessible, and you guys already know I will be bringing you all some legendary in-game shots of both best girls and some crazy sick gameplay angles. Basically, our thumbnail game on this channel is about to be cranked up to level 99. It seems like you battle Weiss in the DLC. Why did you choose that character? Nomura says, since the strongest character Sephiroth is already in the game, I wanted to have another formidable boss aside from Sephiroth, so we chose Weiss. I personally am curious as to how a battle would play out for the first time with Cloud versus Weiss. In fact, I even asked the team to add Weiss as a secret boss ever since the PlayStation 4 version. You designed the original Weiss in Dirge of Cerberus, but he was half naked in that game. It seems like he's wearing clothes this time. Nomura says, since he is a secret boss, I wanted to present him with a sense of richness to it, so I gave him something to wear on top. It seems like the battle with Weiss is done in Shinra's battle simulator, but will he be present in other parts of the story as well? What will his battle be like? Nomura says, in regards to details about Weiss, all I can say is please wait for more information. I haven't played Dirge of Cerberus in many years. Way back when my parents were still together and in love, and before my balls dropped a few octaves. You guys saw my reaction. I did not remember who the hell Weiss was at all. I only played that game once, and many of its themes did not stick with me. Outside of the awesome CGI scenes from that intro, and also when Cloud and the party joined Vincent in the battle towards the end. Yeah, it seems Nomura wanted him as a battle simulator boss in the first release, so he made it into this one this time around. There will be a new boss character in the DLC, but that character is going to be different than Weiss, such as another character from the compilation perhaps. Nomura says the new boss character in the Yuffie DLC story is different from Weiss. As for who else will appear aside from Weiss, well, please wait to find more information out. Being secretive as usual, guys, you guys write in the comments below and let me know who you guys think might be showing up as a boss battle for Yuffie in this DLC. Thank God they learned from their mistakes with the final remake trailer and did not show us too much with this DLC. The Weiss battle is mainly a battle simulator, but it doesn't seem that he will be in the DLC story, at least right now. What kind of character is the new character Sonon? Nomura says, in Final Fantasy VII Remake, we briefly touched upon the topic that Barrett's Avalanche and the other Avalanche are 2 separate groups. Yuffie actually came to Midgar for materia, but she gets involved on a mission with the other Avalanche group. Basically, Cloud, Barrett, and company are doing their own thing with their Avalanche group, while Yuffie and the others are doing theirs separately. That's basically the gist of the story. Yuffie and Sonon have a joint battle together. What kind of battle is it? Nomura says the battle system will be slightly different than Final Fantasy VII Remake, and you will not be able to control Sonon. The player will control Yuffie in battle instead. In the tactical mode, you'll be able to give commands to Sonon though. As for new gameplay elements, Yuffie and Sonon will be able to battle together. I hope you enjoy this slightly different battle system compared to Final Fantasy VII Remake. That is pretty disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. Seeing a Dragoon character implemented this early on, I was hoping to get a feel on how Cid will play later on when he's finally introduced into the story of Remake. While we can't control Sonon directly, we can still give him commands and team up for awesome combos with Yuffie. Let's just hope his AI isn't silly and likes to stand in the fire like Aerith and Cloud against Tonberries. Sonon seems like a pretty cool character, and I love that they're really expanding Avalanche a lot in Remake. Initially as a child and only until recently, I figured Avalanche was a small group, just Barrett's crew. But to see them being a giant secret organization with different factions is pretty wild to me. Really looking forward to see them expanding more of the world and lore behind Final Fantasy VII with other characters. Who knows, maybe Deep Ground will actually be cool this time around. And also, this is pretty much a sneak peek at what we could expect to see for the combat in Remake Part 2, when team combos are implemented in the open world areas. Fingers crossed. I mean, just imagine seeing what Yuffie and Sonon are doing with Cloud and Tifa, and the rest of them, including Red 13. Oh my god, that's amazing. Now, in regards to the Final Fantasy VII First Soldier Battle Royale of all things, the interviewer asked, the First Soldier uses Midgar as its battleground, but where exactly does this installment take place within the Final Fantasy VII story? Nomura says, within the various compilations of Final Fantasy VII, this game is the first to take place chronologically during a time when Soldier was not yet a thing, but is about Soldier cadets and how Soldier gets established. The story itself isn't very dense given the nature of the game, but it does form the backbone of the Soldier story. The Soldier cadets fight not only monsters, but the Cutter enemy, Scorpion Sentinel, and other Shinra machines. What is the reason behind that? Nomura says it's all part of their soldier training. They have to undergo various situations to experience realistic battles. Can you give us a basic rundown of the battle rules? Is it along the lines of last man standing wins, or are there team battles? Nomura says there are solo and trio battles, and the winner is the last person or team remaining. Since this game is a battle royale type with RPG elements, there might be some out there who are worried about picking up this game as it might not be geared towards gamers who are not used to that style. How did you go about making a balance for that? Nomura says one of the fun parts of the Battle Royale game is leveling up by gathering items and subduing monsters, which are RPG elements that we have added. This should allow for casual gamers to enjoy the battle game as well. This Battle Royale game, I'm going to be honest, is nothing anyone asked for. But guys, let's be realistic. This 100% confirms that Square is well aware and knows that Final Fantasy VII is their golden goose gaming product. Using the name Final Fantasy VII specifically for a Battle Royale will draw in plenty of traffic. Is the game going to be good? Probably not, but I mean, it's still too early to tell. But to be honest, I love Battle Royales, and I'm an original player from the DayZ and PUBG days. So definitely I'm going to be playing this. I hope you guys will be joining me as well. The inclusion of RPG elements and summons are crazy to me and hilarious, so I can't wait to see how unique this system actually will be. Big facts, this will be on mobile platforms, but you guys know your boy's going to be playing this on his PC via BlueStacks emulator. Now, in regards to Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which I am very excited for, and it sucks that it's not going to be out until 2022, but still, we have a lot to hold us over until then, and I got you guys covered on all news updates for that. The interviewer asked, for Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, the stories from before Crisis Final Fantasy VII, which takes place 6 years before the original Final Fantasy VII, up until Dirge of Cerberus, which takes place 3 years after the original, will use a battle system designed especially for Ever Crisis. Does that mean Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, which was originally a movie, will also be playable? Nomura says Ever Crisis is basically kind of like another remake of the original Final Fantasy VII, using a bird's eye view of the field with chibi characters, but also incorporating regular full-body detailed character designs for the battle portions. It will be a command-style RPG. This game is the answer to those who said they like the command-style RPG system. The titles are divided into chapters that allows you to have a free game playstyle. The contents will cover the original Final Fantasy VII and work its way through the compilation of Final Fantasy VII and include First Soldier as well. In regards to the First Soldier that I mentioned earlier, Ever Crisis will also have part of the story within this game. In particular, since the story covers what happened before Soldier was established. We've also added in a part about that legendary hero's youth. The story is in particular a huge eye-catcher, and we have asked Nojima-san to write the scenario too. We hope you guys are looking forward to it. I am super excited for this simply because I want something for everyone. I want something that every one of us can enjoy all together. We all have phones, either Android or iPhones, and therefore almost everyone will have access to this game. I want all fans of Final Fantasy VII to feel included as well, because I know there were many who felt that they could not get into Remake's battle system or enjoy it the same way. This game is basically a one-for-one remake of the original Final Fantasy VII game that most fans wanted. I'm very excited to see the future releases of this, even though we will have to wait for quite some time. And the fact that a storyline for Ever Crisis and First Soldier will revolve around Sephiroth of all people too. That soldier he is talking about is none other than Sephiroth, the prime example of what it takes to be first class. There will be a story scenario written by Nojima, and I can't wait to see what this entails. There's a lot of people who want a remaster of other games within the compilation instead of a remaster. This seems like a completely new game, so why did you decide to combine them all into one game? Nomura says the concept of this game is to use the original Final Fantasy VII as its base so that players can enjoy. The original Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, and Final Fantasy VII Remake are all separate entities, so I don't think this would wrap up other compilation titles. Will the story of Final Fantasy VII be presented chronologically, or will the story from Final Fantasy VII Before Crisis leading up to Dirge of Cerberus be rebuilt specifically for Ever Crisis? Nomura says you will not need to play each title in its entirety before the next. Rather, each title will have its own chapters that you can select and play. Think of it more as a chronology of Final Fantasy VII. In regards to the chapters, will the stories be added as new updates? Nomura says that's right, new chapters will be added every month. They did say this game will be episodic, so the full game won't be out immediately, and monthly they will be releasing more for us to eventually enjoy all together. This is awesome and definitely something for us to look forward to on our channel whenever we stream in 2022. This will be a regular series on the channel. I hope you guys can enjoy. In regards to the battle parts, it looks like it took the battle style from Final Fantasy VII Remake and made it into a command style RPG. But can you briefly explain what the battle system will be like? Nomura says the battle system for the original Final Fantasy VII was based on the ATB system, so we will be going with that game style. The materia setup will also follow the original, and weapons, materia, summons, and limit breaks can also be used, further opening up the battle system. This is a unique approach because I personally was hoping that the game would use the chibi sprites during battle as well, because I personally think they look really cool. But for them to use the remake models is something I look forward to seeing more polished through the months as we see more action. Turn-based combat is coming back, guys, and in a new way that everyone can enjoy. The interviewer asked Nomura, why is it that only 28.1% of you guys that watch and love these videos are currently subscribed? Guys, the time is officially here. The moment we've all been talking about for months has finally arrived, and things could not be going any better. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned so you guys don't miss out when we have regular Final Fantasy updates. And of course, when Yuffie comes out, you guys know I'm going to have to give her some badass in-depth guides to enjoy her combat even more than the devs thought were even possible. Being a subscriber is a free way to support the channel and helps us get one step closer to our 100,000 subscriber goal, guys. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more updates on Final Fantasy VII. The new 3D chibi characters as well as the 2D art all look new. Who was responsible for the character illustrations in this game? Nomura says the illustrations were done by our art designer Fujise. We originally wanted everything to be done with 3D CG models, but then in order to maximize the presentation of the original game's atmosphere, this presented quite a few problems. We considered asking someone within the Final Fantasy VII staff to do the character designs, but we all carried heavy workloads already. Thankfully, at that time, Fujise came to us with some avatar design checks on a new project, and when we looked at her art, we thought, hey, wouldn't this style also fit this game? Even though Fujise was part of another team on another title I was involved in, we asked her to join the Ever Crisis one, and we had new hope. The character art is one of the first things that jumped out at me, and man, do they look beautiful. I can't wait to see how the other characters look in this concept. Since the game seems to be very story driven, what will you do about voice recording? Nomura says we're still trying to figure out what to do with the voice recording. Since I'm involved in numerous amounts of titles, I'm kind of stuck. And that goes for voice recording as well. Because of that, we even wanted to avoid having to do any new voice recordings, since Final Fantasy Ever Crisis will use Final Fantasy VII and other compilation titles as its base. We thought, why don't we just not have voice acting? However, it's probably necessary to have it during the battle sequences, so we're considering how to do it. So if we are to add voices, it will probably be at a minimum. You know, I was wondering about this in the initial trailer, like how would they do voices for all of these titles for each of these characters? It's a bit disappointing, but definitely would be a huge immersive inclusion. But this would require all the actors to read mountains of dialogue when you consider how many games in this compilation exist and the lengths they would have to go to get all of them recorded. I do hope they do it, but I'm not holding my breath because they seem to be on the fence. Plus, who needs their voices? You guys know when I stream these games, I make amazing voices for these characters. Just ask Rico and Bugenhagen, ya. And finally, the Famitsu interview is actually capped off with the meaning of Intergrade. The interviewer asked, the next installment of Final Fantasy VII Remake is of course highly anticipated. We also have Final Fantasy VII Intergrade and First Soldier out in 2021, while Ever Crisis is starting its service in 2022. With the sudden announcement of 3 new titles in the works, will you be director and concept designer for all of them? Nomura says, although we announced 3 different Final Fantasy VII titles at this time, as I mentioned earlier, I have an unprecedented amount of work right now. Since we already have Final Fantasy VII Remake as the base game to work on, as well as understand what types of improvements to incorporate, the next remake installment will be directed by Hamaguchi, the co-director of the first remake. I will carry forth as a creative director for Remake, as well as the mobile games. However, this won't change my basic involvement with the work. So I do hope for your continued support. It's not uncommon for them to switch directors, and to be honest, Nomura and the rest of them are still going to be on the project pitching ideas. And to be honest, I love hearing that Hamaguchi will be leading the project next. He's hinted many times over in recent interviews that he's excited to showcase and detail the world of Final Fantasy VII and reimagine it for today's standards for us to enjoy. Really love that man. The interviewer asked, since your work with the Final Fantasy VII titles will not change much, you are also focusing on other titles too, right? We look forward to those. With the announcement of 3 new titles, can you please say a few words to fans who are also anticipating the next remake installment? Nomura says, in order to make the game compatible with the PlayStation 5, there are lots of things happening in all directions that we had to sort through. However, our staff are incredibly dedicated and we made it in a very timely manner. We would like for you to first enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. In regards to the title Intergrade, the original Final Fantasy VII was called Final Fantasy VII International for the improved overseas version, so it pays a little homage to that original title. The word Intergrade has the meaning of being a middle, which serves as a midway point between Remake and the next installment. It also means to move, which is a nod for moving to a new PlayStation 5 system and the next installment. We also have included a new DLC episode revolving around Yuffie, and there's content within it that you cannot miss. Weiss is a formidable opponent in the battle simulator. Also, with the revival of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII through EC and FS, I was very surprised when I first heard from Kitase that they were planning to do both at the same time. I thought they would focus on one at a time, but Kitase said nope, we're doing both at the same time. I even remember suggesting that they should narrow down their workload. However, they were all bonded by producer Ichikawa's strong enthusiasm. And he said that if we are to do it, we need to do it without any loss in quality. It seemed like an impossible request at first, but we overcame the battle and we got it in the clear. I'm so happy we were able to announce these titles. We will also open up a beta test to get feedback, so I hope you look forward to that. As you wait for the next installment of Final Fantasy VII Remake, I hope you are able to thoroughly enjoy these 3 new titles. Very cool backstory and homage to the original release of Final Fantasy VII with the new title Intergrade. This information makes me further believe that Remake Part 2 will not be out until 2023, and all these games coming out between then are meant to hold us over until then, without impacting the development of Remake Part 2 and making sure that it's as detailed as they know we'd love it to be. We very well might soon have a mountain of content and time to kill over the next 2 years, and I am with you guys for it all. Let me know which title are you guys most excited for. I love the idea of Ever Crisis, and I cannot wait to personally play Before Crisis. That game was never released in English, and it was only in Japan and stuck on mobile. A fan made a remake for it using RPG Maker, but to be honest, it's not the same as the actual game. So hearing that we will get a chance to enjoy those characters and that story officially for the first time in the US is pretty damn awesome to me, and I cannot wait. By the way, it really blows my mind to see that we will be getting a full-on game version with turn-based RPG combat for Advent Children's Story, which was originally just a movie. Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus have me excited as well, and I really can't see where the hell they will take us next. Most definitely the Intergrade remake and the Yuffie DLC have my adrenaline still going hours after recording that event earlier for you guys. I have so many other videos in my mind racing that I will be releasing, so make sure that you guys do not miss them. I have a big brain theory coming soon that you guys won't want to miss out on either, because it probably will explain a lot with the way that the story of Remake Part 1 ended. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. Stay tuned for more Final Fantasy VII Remake coverage.